It is the Anfield Wrap. We are all smiling because Liverpool have gone to St James's Park. They have won 3-2 and they are 6 points from 6 at the start of retaining the Premier League title. I am John Gibbons, in for Neil Atkinson, who's on his way back from Newcastle. I can't wait to hear the stories of how that felt when Rio scored that third goal. But it felt pretty good when we were as well, and we're going to talk a lot more about that. And to do that, I've got Ian Ryan, I've got Stu Wright, and I've got Mo Stewart. What a table. Tell you what, you know when they do them fancy dinner parties, this might be mine. Honestly, fuck Churchill and all that lot, do you know what I mean? These boys are what I want to relive that fantastic win. But before all that, we are delighted that Peloton have come back to partner with us for another year. They're fantastic to work with. We really appreciate their support. And it is also the official cardio and strength partner for LFC. Peloton is the global leader in personalised fitness and wellness, encouraging anyone, anywhere to find their power. So I've set my own personal goals for Peloton for next year. It's important to share them. You'll know this, Stu. If you share goals, they're more likely to happen and stuff like that. He's looking at me like, what on earth?
Yeah, why on earth would I know this?
Anyway, Stu's a very goals-minded person, absolutely. And if you share your goals, the more likely it happens. So what I want to do with the bike is get more out of it. So I've been doing the classes, been enjoying them, getting stuck into those. But I want to find out a little bit more about the meditation and yoga, because we're going to need it this season, I think. A little bit of mindfulness. But also to grow our community on the Peloton app, because there's lots of you who have got a Peloton bike at home. That might be the bike or the tread or any of the machines that they do, and you're getting stuck in with us, and it was really good fun. So last year in May we did a joint ride to Istanbul, which was really good fun, and Peloton even filled in a signed shirt for one of the people who did that, picked that random. So that's been good fun. So I want to grow our community more on there. So if you've got a Peloton bike or you're interested in getting involved with us, we've got a group on the Peloton app, so just search for the Anfield Wrap or ask me for the link. And we've also got a group on Telegram where we share tips, do live classes together, and just generally motivate each other to get on the bike or tread as well. So if that's interesting to you, give me a shout and we'd love to have you. But we are going to do a group activity for September. I haven't figured out what it is yet. Maybe just enjoy Rio together. So to get that out.
Ride to Rio.
Ride to Rio!
Look,
we've got to do it. Write that down. Absolutely. We are. There we are. We're riding to Rio in September. I mean, there's a big ocean in the way, but we'll pretend there's not. We'll pretend there's a big bridge, and we're going to ride. That's brilliant, that.
It's a long way.
No, we'll do it like a relay.
Yeah, it feels good at the ideas table. You know what I mean? But I reckon halfway through, there might be some different views.
That's not my department.
Yeah, how it comes about. Yeah. Is there someone else to worry about? No, absolutely, that is top of the ideas list for September. But we do need to get into the game. We've had a bit of fun with it already, of course. So I'm going to split it into two parts, because listen, it wasn't perfect, and we know it's not perfect at the moment. So part 3, we're going to be picking our holes in what Liverpool could be doing better at the moment, what we'd like to see between now and the transfer window shutting, and what we think Slot could do a little bit better maybe with what he's got. In between that, we've got Neil with Tip Trade Theatre talking about an upcoming play, I Am Steven Gerrard. But before that, Mo, we're going to do the good, because there was loads of good. I mean, not least that winning goal at the end. It's a perfect way to win a football game.
It is, and we're very good at it, and we keep doing it. And I don't know, it's funny because after last week, I remember everyone saying, I'm not sure we can handle 37 more of these, and we can't keep winning our list. It's like, yes, we can. Like, we do it more than anyone else in the league, and there's a reason for that. And yes, you obviously want to be in a position where you're 3 or 4-0 up and cruising and what have you. But from an energy, from an endorphins point of view, winning in the last particular game, particularly a game like that had so much emotion, so much needle involved, so much outside of the actual game of football involved in it, to get that release at that moment and to be able to kind of maybe send some of the home fans home a little bit disappointed, like you can't beat it.
We weren't at the ground, we were in separate government establishments because we're team players the whole way. I mean, what was it like when you were? Because where we were, it was very lively indeed. Suddenly hugging a stranger I didn't even know was in our bit of the pub.
Yeah, I need to speak with Rob, because I've decided now what I need to do before, a bit of like pre-match admin. Before deciding which boozer I'm going to, I need to check which ones have got a defibrillator. Because I was concerned, come the 111th minute, I was concerned for mine and other people's health. Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, the match itself isn't necessarily what you pay your money for, but moments like that is what you pay your money for, isn't it? You know what I mean? It was incredible. And to see a lad come off the bench at that age, I mean, it's the stuff of dreams. It is literally, it'll be the stuff of his dreams. He was probably dreaming about it like last week. The night before, he was probably dreaming about it one day.
Give me one chance, give me one chance.
And, you know, it's just so emotional for something like that, to see that, you know, come off for a lad like that in that situation. But, I mean, the finish was incredible. You know, I mean, when you talk about the move, it was lovely to see finally Liverpool play a bit of football and use the extra man, and then the over from Szoboszlai. But, you know, at that point, everyone's talking about that over from Szoboszlai as if, like, that just teed it up on a complete plate for the lad. I mean, I've seen you know, prime finishes miss from there.
This guy, get under it, head back. Yeah.
Absolutely, and, you know, then you add in, he just come on, I think it was like his 4th minute on. You add in the emotion of the game, the time of the game. It's the winner in a game filled with such needle. You know, it's almost the last kick of the game. I mean, my God, what a moment. Stuff that it will live with him, and I think live with the fan base forever. If he never does anything else in a Liverpool shirt, which, by the way, I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will.
The chances are, yeah. He's got time on his hands.
But if it's stopped there, it's some way to go. You know what I mean? So fair play, amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, no, I'll start by saying that last night, I'm absolutely delighted by it for a couple of reasons. Now, the obvious one is that in the context of a long, hard season, you get the 3 points, and that felt significant. We know it's a really tough place to go. You know, if you're ranking your kind of hardest grounds to go to, it's easily in the top 5 or 6. I mean, Liverpool, City and Arsenal go there last season, none of them win.
I think it's Liverpool's hardest away this season, that.
I mean, given everything around it, there's a case for it, absolutely a case for it. So I think to go and get it done in that fashion, and as you said, we'll talk about some of the stuff that maybe didn't go quite so well later on, and there is a little bit of that, and there's stuff for them to work on. But just in isolation, that result felt hugely significant. So there was that. And I'll be honest, John, I wanted to see a response on the pitch just to a load of fucking nonsense, for want of a better word, that's been going on. That's been coming in our direction, mainly from the northeast, but there's been some national journalists as well, just stoking the flames a little bit, just framing the whole situation that Liverpool have insulted some proud and tough owners, which I just find absolutely bizarre. But if you want to frame it in that way, all the best to you. So it felt like, for some mad reason, the whole world was against Liverpool last night. They all wanted Newcastle to win. But it doesn't work out that way, because football, listen, it can go in many different ways, but Liverpool do find a way home last night, and they don't play particularly great, we know that, but it's all about getting over the line, it's all about getting the 3 points, and by hook or by crook, that's what they do.
He's got a lot of talent, the kid, and you know, Arne has been quite careful. I mean, careful in a way, you know, he's using him and he's 16, so he's obviously backing him. He hasn't used him yet in terms of the season. That's his first time. It's going to be tough to hold him back, isn't it? He seems so level-headed as well. Like his interview after the game, and he's like, I mean, he really comes across how young he is, but also like, you know, mature, and he seems like such a nice kid. But he's confident and he's ready to go. And you're looking around at the moment, there's a 15-year-old coming on for Arsenal. Obviously, there's the Yamal thing that people keep mentioning. But it feels like a time if you're good enough just sort of get them on, and if you back yourself. And he's going to be more and more going, I'll sort this for you.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because you don't want to overreact to this first moment, but it's getting harder and harder not to. And
it's not come out of nowhere.
No, and it's funny because all of the times you've spoken about Rio so far during pre-season, the one thing I kept saying was we need to make sure that when we call on him, it's because we can and not because we need him. And what's the first thing that happens? We call on him when we need him. He has to be our little 16-year-old Superman. And you know what? He bloody well and done it. So yeah, the level of maturity, the thing I loved about that interview after the match is that he was mentioning the things that the coaches have been talking to him about.
Get back post.
Get into the back post, all those kind of things. And you can tell that he's very much taking on board everything everyone says to him, talking about the way that the players speak to him as well. And he's just really, he's not overawed by the moment. I mean, that's a perfect example of someone who's not overawed by the moment. But they're able to just go in there, be fearless, but also not lose sight of what he's there to do. And again, Stu mentioned about how great the finish is. We also have to remember the fact that, like, where he puts it, like the goalkeeper side, he puts it in the goalkeeper side, but he's so confident that he knows that he'll get the connection right and he'll just curl it beyond him. And think about how many players in that situation would take a touch and then try to put it in the other corner. Try to do the safe thing. He has so much confidence in his technique and his ability. He just sees the ball, he walks onto it, and he curls it into the corner. It's just, you don't, as I said at the beginning, you don't want to overreact. But if it is true that Liverpool have now started to change their transfer policy because of him, you can kind of understand it.
I think it might have been the manager, or maybe it was Virgil, who said there was a couple of players in the dressing room who would have took a touch.
Yeah,
They would have took a touch. So for him to do that, and I agree with you, Stu, you know, it's not just the fact that it's the winning goal, it's when it comes in the game, that the pressure on him, and it's such a good finish. Pope doesn't even move. No. Even though it's his side, as you said, Mo, the keeper can't even move. So
didn't have time to.
No.
Because there was no hesitation, and when he wraps it, the way he connects with that ball and whips it into that far corner, I mean, that in itself, I think that speaks volumes for his mentality as a kid. You know, that's the mentality of like a Michael Owen coming through, or a Rooney, where there's no doubt. They know what they can do. We've seen it in pre-season with them as well.
But Stu, you can imagine, you know, on the training ground, they're doing those kind of finishes all the time, you know what I mean? But then to replicate that, because on the training ground, you've not got the pressure, but all of a sudden there's such pressure, there's so much needle, there's so much context to the game. And listen, if it doesn't go in, you'd be gutted. But you'd almost understand it. He's a young kid. These things can happen. But for him to do that, and listen, Liverpool have got a job now on their hands to just, you know, dampen the noise around him a little bit. It's going to be hard because when 16-year-old footballers do that, you know, you immediately want to see more and more of them. But, you know, Gakpo plays on that side, and I think in the main does all right last night as well. So, and we know he will be first choice. But to have an option there that at times can come on, terrify people, because there's no fear. There's absolutely zero fear from him. But you've got to be careful because the seasons are long, they are hard. You know, there'll be ups and downs for the kid, like there are with all footballers. But the signs are so positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Superstar was born right in front of our eyes, and it's always fantastic to see. A few other good individual performances. I don't know if there's any you want to talk about, Stu. I'll let you pick one. I put a few down on the agenda, but you just go for it, mate. You cut loose.
Yeah, well, there was the notables, I think, that have been talked about already, you know, on the telly and dispatches. Like Szoboszlai was brilliant. I think, you know, to do that kind of performance out of position, I think, and then to go into midfield as well. And he was the one on the 111th minute. He probably had more energy still than anyone. I don't know
I think he enjoyed cutting loose. Because he's been right back, and like you say, Stu, he's done an amazing job. And I think he went into midfield and went, right, here we go.
And Virgil was brilliant as well. But I think, you know, when you look at Gravenberch, I thought he was superb. And he had to play so long with the game on a yellow as well. Ridiculous yellow, but in my opinion at the time, then I saw the replay and thought, maybe. But, you know, I thought he was the one midfielder that was looking to get on the ball and try and move it. I thought defensively he was good. I think he moved his body well, positioned himself well. But you know, I thought it was hard going in that midfield, really hard going. And what was that? That was his first performance of the season.
Yeah, it was his first game since last game of last season. Yeah,
I thought he'd only do 60, but he did a lot more, didn't he? In the end, I thought he deserves a real shout. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can list too many more. I don't think it was the greatest Liverpool performance, really. I think there was a few question marks, which I know we'll come to later on. But the standout Szoboszlai, the keeper did in the main did well. Virgil was great. Gravenberch. Ekitike, you know, he listened, the finish. I mean, I was told before he came that he wasn't that.
Wasn't that clinical.
Right, didn't he? You know what I mean? Bloody hell. But I think it was a game for him where you could just see the power of the Premier League. He's just not quite there yet. Like you'd think, you know, this height and all that, you'd think he'd be able to hold it up a little bit more. But you can see he's actually got a bit of physical development left to do. He's got a bit of growing still to do, filling out to do. And I think, you know, the longer he has in the Premier League and the more focus that they have on strength training for him, develop his power, I think, you know, where he is now to where he'll be in 18 months, I think it's frightening. It's frightening. But that will have been an eye-opener for him last night.
I actually thought he did that part all right. I think the part, but when he was having the physical battle, he lost sight of the pass.
Yeah.
So that was what happened. He'd win the battle, but then the ball wouldn't go to a teammate. And you're right, he is learning so much week in, week out. But the thing that I really think that we need to kind of mark out is two things. One, there was the game in the Community Shield where he has the golden chance after 40 seconds after half time and he misses it. This time he had a chance in the first minute after he bags. And also, in both the games that he's played so far, he scored, and then there's been another chance that he feels like, I should have done better. He had one chance in this game.
Yeah.
One chance. One sniff of a chance. He puts it away. Puts it right in the corner where no one can get it. So, in terms of efficiency, he's right up there. And when you look across the front line, you mentioned Gakpo. I think Gakpo did do some good things in the game. Obviously, Salah's not had the start to the season we normally see from him.
Yeah.
Verts is still kind of feeling his way in. But we've got a guy who's scoring every game.
Yeah.
Like, that cannot be underestimated as how important it is to where we are. While we're still trying to build the plane and fly the plane at the start, we've got a guy in the front seat who knows what he's doing.
Yeah, it's a great start to his Liverpool career, and as Stu says, more to come from him as well, which should worry, you know, opposition teams, because, you know, it's some start to his in a red shirt for him.
Oh, listen, whilst you're in on the job, if you can be banging in goals week in, week out, then listen, there's going to be very few complaints. Let's have
Big
it
goals
right.
as well.
Big goals, and he's not having that many chances. So, you know, as Stu said, it's pretty efficient so far. I thought he grew into the game. Listen, there was always going to be an element of physicality last night that was going to maybe just catch even, you know, seasoned pros off guard a little bit who've been playing the league for a long time. So for the likes of Wright and Ekitike, that was always going to be the challenge. And that's why, you know, there was debates around the team, you know, who was going to start. And it was things like, you know, even though we know some of these footballers are going to go on and have wonderful careers at Liverpool, there was legitimate claims to say, well, do you start a Wright in a game like this? Do you start an Ekitike? Because we knew that it was going to be a game that was just not in the ordinary because of all the things around it. And there was a lot of talk about, you know, they're going to do this to our players, they're going to do that, which turned out to be a load of shit in the end. Let's have it right. You know, that physical challenge was there, but if anything, the whole hoo-ha around it, the frenzy, it kind of flipped on Newcastle a little bit, and you see that for the Gordon sending off. But I think there's several standouts there. Stu's reeled a load of them off. The captain's outstanding.
Yeah.
The captain is outstanding. Yes, there was a little bit of talk about the line for the equalising goal, which seems to be a bit of a decision that the bench took along with Virgil, because you can see on the clips afterwards that he's shifted up a little bit higher, but he's winning everything. And he had to win everything because, listen, you don't want to be digging people out too much, but it's not Canate's greatest night in a red shirt. It just isn't.
And that line, by the way, the line wasn't the issue. Canate should win that header.
Yeah,
that's the issue.
And listen,
simple as that.
We know he's up against a 6'7" Dan Burn, but there's no real jump. There's no real physical challenge there, and he's got to make it more difficult for Burn in that moment.
He loses it at the first half to Gordon.
It's not. Yeah, he did, and it's not great. Not been a great start for him, and we know how good he can be. But when you're talking around some of the numbers that he may want for a new contract, you can maybe see one there's a little bit of reservation at times. Maybe the Real Madrid thing or PSG, if those two are at the table, maybe that's in his head a little bit. There's no doubt, if you Canate fit and firing at his very best, he's an unbelievable centre-half. We're not really seeing that at the minute, but in Virgil we're seeing everything you want to see, really. I thought he was brilliant from the first minute, and I think he went into the game very much understanding the assignments and the brief. I think he relished it. I think you get a sense of that at the end of the game. Fucking bring it on. I'll have a bit of this. This is what I'm about. I want to play in games like this. I want to play in stadiums where it is a little bit on top and it's a bit feisty. And he even takes the Gordon challenge relatively well, given that he could have fucking, you know, really done some damage there, Gordon. It's a really horrendous challenge. So yeah, the captain, and then, you know, we touched on Szoboszlai, and I wanted to see him in midfield for obvious reasons, but the manager's got to do a bit of jiggery-pokery because of, you know, the covering the right back situation. But my God, what a performance. He gives you everything you want.
You know, not to get all Roy Keane on the Canate thing, but lad, that's your job. That is your job. Head that away. I know that we're saying like Dan Burns 6'24" or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But Canate's not a tiddler, and he's about twice as wide as Dan Burn. You know, he's a massive lad. That is literally what he is there for. He's meant to be. He's a bigger lad physically than Virgil. He is meant to be our specimen there in the back four who will take on all comers, who won't get muscled out with by anyone. That's his job. And, you know, I thought that was... He didn't really even compete for that ball, really. You know, I thought that was very, very disappointing. I agree with you. I think he's on his day, when he gets into a rhythm, he's unplayable. He's brilliant, Canate, but he'll also have patches. He'll go through periods or running games where he doesn't look like he knows how to tie his own shoelaces. And I think, unfortunately, we're a little bit seeing that at the moment. I don't know if the Madrid stuff has got into his head or whatever, you know, but he's not playing well.
I think for me it's funny because we are focusing on the physical battles, and these are the things that are the most obvious to see. But when I look at that challenge that he put in for the second goal, I don't think about the fact that he's lost the physical battle. I think that he's so tied up in the physical battle that he's not looking at the ball.
Yeah.
And it's not even so much about the physicality of going, because people talk about Dan Burn and say, oh yeah, he's being physical. They underrate the fact that he's very clever in how he uses his physicality. He's not just barreling through everyone. He knows when to lean in, when to kind of position himself, how to position himself so he's able to win those things. These are the things, the smarts, the using of your brain that is so important in winning the second half. And the reason why Virgil is so bloody good is not just because he batters everyone, it's because he's smart enough to know when he has to go out there and use his physicality and when he has to just position himself properly to either deal with what comes or to just lean someone off the ball. That's the part that Canate struggles with. That's why he's losing headers to Anthony Gordon. Because Anthony Gordon, again, is a smart footballer in terms of how and where he uses his body. And for me, all of the issues I see with Canate, whether it's this season, whether it's previous seasons, they're all in his head. So it's either concentration or it's just game IQ. These are the things that he really needs to kind of get to the next level on. And I agree with these boys. I think when he's at his best, he's a fantastic asset and he's worth keeping. But these are also things that he absolutely needs to learn quickly, because it's notable whenever Virgil isn't alongside him, that level drops massively. And it's because he hasn't got someone talking him through all of those smarts, all of those IQ things. He hasn't really started to absorb them and learn them for himself yet.
Not having Dan Burn at all, by the way. It's a poor man's Nat Phillips. Right? Has he done a Cruyff turn in the San Siro? No, he hasn't.
But what I mean is that in duels, there's a reason why he wins so many. It's not just because he's physically better.
You're totally right. Canate was distracted by the duel. Win the header. Win the header. Use your strength, but that's your job, mate. Win that header. Simple as that. And if that happens, if he even gets a 50-50 on it, it's not a goal. You know what I mean? Even if he's nowhere near the ball. No. He's nowhere near the ball. So I'm going
to drag part one back to positivity here to finish off. Stu mentioned Sebastian before, and I think he's worthy of a little bit more praise because he puts in a huge shift for the team in an unfamiliar position. You can see why the manager likes him so much. He's going to be in this team, you know, wherever the manager needs him to be for a little while on, and then, you know, to have that moment with the mindset to do the little through the legs at the end, which helps us win the game. He doesn't get an assist for it. I feel like he should. Yeah. But it's a great performance from him all over the pitch, and just sums him up for maybe just doing whatever he needs to do to help Liverpool win.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, on the dummy, you know, again, it's back to that's a pressure moment. You know, a lot of people would have just took a touch and thought about the glory there, but he knows what's behind him. It's real game intelligence, just knowing his surroundings. He's probably had a little shout as well, but even so, there are other footballers that would have just maybe thought about doing something slightly different. I thought his performance overall was stellar, to be honest. And as I said before, I wanted him in the midfield because of the physical gifts that he's got, and you feel like when he's at his absolute best, he's so vital to what Liverpool want to do and what Liverpool want to achieve in any given football match. But he does a job for the team, and my God, he does it really, really well. So, yeah, I think there was a lot of chat going into the season around maybe Szoboszlai not being a regular, but for me there was never really any doubt. The manager absolutely loves him. So it might be a case of he just pops up in different areas because he's a multifaceted footballer and he can do different jobs at different times for you. I mean, you get a real kind of sense of his passing ability at Brighton towards the end of last season, where all of a sudden, you don't really see that a lot because he's playing further up the pitch, but he is capable of getting it and just pinging it and hitting 30, 40, 50-yard passes and just dropping it on someone's toes. He's capable of that. He's got that in his locker. We know about the running power. And listen, he doesn't play well every week, but no one does. But I think sometimes there's been a little bit too much of a jumping on his back. He's not particularly great in the Charity Shield, but others have poor performances that day. Thought he's much better against Bournemouth, the mistake aside for the goal where he tries to flick. I don't think he'd be doing that again because the manager left him in no uncertain terms. That wasn't a great thing to do. So, listen, we're lucky to have him. And yeah, I'd expect him to get plenty of minutes because there's no doubt the manager loves him.
Do you know what? He didn't know, that Rio's behind him.
Didn't he?
So Rio's been interviewed and said, do you think, the question was...
But there was no shout.
There was no... And he said, I spoke to Dom in the changing room and he said, I expected you to be there. I hoped you to be there. And actually, I think that's even better because what that does is that demonstrates his awareness of where everyone should be on the pitch in that given moment. He knows that the left-sided forward should be making a move there to the
back to the training ground.
Yeah,
I tell you what to do.
But
I tell you what, right now, imagine the kind of noise around that if he leaves it and there's no one there.
Yeah,
he'd be getting fucking pelters, and you can understand it to an extent. So the confidence
bravery,
to do that, the
Yeah.
confidence and the bravery to do that in that moment when it was so vital that Liverpool get over the line because they blew a 2-goal lead. I mean, fair play to the kid.
and that's another one of those examples of Liverpool trying to pass up a good shot for a great shot.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've seen a lot of under Slot, and I think it's something that they've all got ingrained in them. And there are times when it can look a bit maddening, when you're just like, why is he not just, honestly...
Put your foot through it, yeah.
I'm one of those fellas who shouts, just fucking shoot! at least once in every single game. But there are times when I'm wrong. And this is definitely one of those times.
Even Mo, it's hard to believe. Okay, we'll have a little break now. We'll have a break in the room, but you are going to hear from Neil Atkinson talking to the boys from Tiptree Theatre about their upcoming play. I am Stephen Gerrard, and then we'll be back picking a few holes in Liverpool's performance and what we feel like they need to be doing better.
It's Neil Atkinson, joined by Sean McLaughlin, the author of I Am Stephen Gerrard, the playwright behind I Am Stephen Gerrard, and Evan Byrne, who is the artistic director of Tiptree Theatre. I'm going to come on to I Am Stephen Gerrard in a minute. I want to start off with the purpose and the aims and what makes Tiptree Theatre unique. Evan, tell me.
Yeah. So Tiptree Theatre is a theatre company that's based in Knowsley. It's run by myself and Maisie Gordon, who's our exec producer.
Who sat there?
And co-CEO sat there behind
Didn't want
the
to
camera.
come on.
But she's there anyway.
Just last year to the Wolves, I'd say.
Pretty much. But yeah, we are a disability-led company, so the two of us who run the company both have disabilities, and our aim really is to amplify the voices of young people who are wanting to get into the performing arts industries, and also to tell stories. I think that's a big part of what everyone wants to do in the theatre and culture world, just telling stories and stories that maybe we don't hear all the time.
I was about to say, I think it's a big part of, it's a big driver of, I think, all of human nature is to tell stories, but there's some people who, for them to tell their story, it's made harder. It's made harder for a wide variety of reasons, and it seems like with Tiptree, what you're trying to do is, as much as possible, empower those people, help them find their way to be able to tell their story. Yeah,
100%. We love to just work with people who maybe need that push to get their story out, or people who we think their story is really worth telling, and also finding interesting and innovative ways to do that as well. So recently we've just worked on a piece that's about the disabled experience in the healthcare system in the UK, but we did that through dance with 2 disabled dancers. And then I Am Stephen Gerrard as well is also a really unique way of telling a really common story within Liverpool and the wider UK as well.
So what is I Am Stephen Gerrard about, Sean? It's pressure on you now.
Yeah, so it's semi-autobiographical. It's about growing up in Liverpool, and I just, by nature, didn't have that urge to play football or watch football kind of thing. So it was kind of a twisting of the truth, if you like, of what that does to like family dynamics between dads and lads, or, you know, extended family or family friends. And just kind of working through to find like a version of yourself where you feel accepted within society. So we focus really, the key words of the play is masculinity. So it's the idea that, you know, sometimes if you're not into football, maybe your masculinity is minimised by like people or not, you know, and it's just kind of finding a version of masculinity that you feel comfortable in, that you feel self-accepting of.
So within that then, when you've gone to Tiptree, you've developed this is the third time this play will be staged, so it's been staged previously at the Royal Court and at the Hope Street Theatre as well. It's now going to be at the Epstein, so it's going to be the Epstein from the 11th of September, but working with Tiptree, what makes that distinctive for you?
God, it's a big question.
It is. They're all big questions.
Yeah. It's kind of what Evan said. It's, you know, they're trying to find innovative ways to tell these stories. And I think when I wrote this play, I thought it was really specific and I was quite precious about it. Yeah. And then when new ideas came in with Maisie and Evan and our director Amy and even Joe, the actor, just seeing that people could relate to it in a way that I never imagined. And what they could bring to it in terms of like Amy's direction, in terms of like, she's not from Liverpool, so the fact that a non-Scouse perspective can get this so much and gravitate towards it was just a massive thing, wasn't it? Like, yeah, so I think it's the empathy that comes from working with Tiptree.
Theatre is, it might not seem it at times, I think almost the trick with many of these things really, I mean I'm just literally in front of a camera here, the trick with many of these things is often for it not to appear like it's collaborative, for it to appear like it is of the moment and all of that sort of stuff. But theatre is a hugely collaborative medium, so when you're working with different people from different sectors with different backgrounds, Evan, it must be, you know, it must be fascinating to bring all that out and to be able to pull it to the fore.
Yeah, it's so enriching, and like I think as a director myself, when I'm directing work, the first instinct is to always get into your head about what you want. Yeah. And I've started like going into rooms completely stripped back and just taking in all of the experience around me and letting that like really affect me and affect what I want to create, because as I always say, my first idea isn't always the right idea, and I have loads of terrible ideas. So it's about having the people there to tell me, no, that's not how we should do it. We should do it this way, and like letting people take you on a journey with them as well as them coming on a journey with me as well.
There is, in amongst all of that, Sean, you're saying there about, you know, having written in and it sort of taken from your experience. You mentioned there the actor Joe. It is a one-person show, isn't it? You know, it's got to carry the whole of this. That must be, first and foremost, it's a massive ask of any actor. Yeah. But also, it must be at times you must be watching that like almost like watching him walk a tightrope, but your tightrope, like you created the tightrope for him.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think even writing so many characters within one script when you know it's for one person is quite hard as well, because coming from the same, you know, person throughout, it's like, are they going to physicalise everyone enough? Are they going to, you know, do enough with the voice to really make them distinctive? So yeah, when I'm watching Joe, I mean, he is amazing at what he does, but it's like when you go from like Shane, who's the protagonist, who's just probably most like me and Evan, you know, and then you've got his dad, who's this macho man, and then you've got Auntie Nell, who's like this really like fierce feminine woman, and it's like, is he going to be able to pull this off? It's quite a big ask of an actor, but he just does amazing every time, doesn't he?
So it's available for people to see it at the Epstein. There's 4 shows, September the 11th, the 12th and the 13th. Yeah. I'm doing the dates very, very quickly in my head, but I think the 13th is a Saturday.
That's right.
So there's 2 shows on the Saturday, that's the plan.
Yeah. That's the one, yeah. We've got a matinee that day as well and an evening show. So there's 2 opportunities to see it on that Saturday. I can't remember how the fixtures line up.
They play Burnley currently on Sunday. It might move for European, but they play Burnley on the Sunday, so I think we should be absolutely fine. 11th, 12th, 13th, you know, there's no excuses. That's what we're agreeing for the listeners and the audience here, that there's no excuses.
Yeah,
is that the plan?
Exactly that. It's really something that like loads of people should come and see. And like, as we say, it's not about Gerrard. It comes from a story of someone who grew up not having that urge to play football, but there's so much to connect to in there. It's all set in Liverpool, mostly Highton, and it's got so many relatable characters that people from Liverpool and people who support Liverpool will understand and want to connect to. And also, it's a good one to come and see with your dad, with your brother, with your sons, to make that connection and get a better understanding of your relationship as well.
Yeah. Excellent stuff. So you've heard the reasons why, you've heard that you've got no excuses. This is the way in which it works. It's at the Epstein. It's on the 11th, the 12th and the 13th times 2. Where's the best place to find it online? Just the Epstein's box office themselves?
Yeah, Epstein's box office website, or in the stage door bar at the Epstein. You can buy them in person, or on our website you can find the link to that, which is tiptreetheatre.com.
tiptreetheatre.com. It's been a pleasure. Lovely to meet Sean, lovely to meet Evan. Maisie's sound as well, but you're just never going to find out.
Thanks a lot to Neil and the boys there. Do support that if you can. I'm moving on to some negatives then regarding the game and matters arising. I'll start with you, Mo, on this one. It's another 2 goals conceded, that has to be said. We conceded 2 against Bournemouth, and you're thinking, well, is that the way it goes? Sometimes the way Bournemouth play, but it's another 2 in this one. Different types of goals, but still a little bit soft. What have you made of the goals we conceded so far? And you seeing any pattern, or is it anything that Liverpool are doing? Is it specifically bad defending in those moments, or is it more of a general issue on how we're playing, do you think?
I think it's specific bad defending in the moments, but it's also repeated things. So the goals we conceded against Bournemouth were both counter-attacks. The goals we conceded in this game were both set pieces. Yeah. And if you go back to last season, what would the most likely way we were going to concede a goal is either a counter-attack or a set piece. So the fact, the biggest problem I have with the 2 goals last night is we've seen it before. The equaliser was exactly the same goal we conceded against Goodison to Beto.
Yeah.
If you think about it, a long ball that we don't deal with, and then there's whoever with the opponents are first to the second ball, and then they're right on top of the goalkeeper and it's a goal. So organisation is an issue to me, but then you look at the heart of those 2 goals. There's 2 battles that are lost, and if those 2 battles are won, there was no goal. Yeah, that's fundamentally what it is. And obviously, we've already spoken about Konate, Kirkes for Bruno's goal. Like, I do have some sympathy. Well, not sympathy, but initially at the first throw-in, it's like TK's marking Bruno, and Bruno runs off him, and he doesn't really look. Yeah. And then suddenly Kirkes finds him on it. But Kirkes' method of dealing with that. Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm not a professional footballer, but I could see that I'd have probably done something.
His body shape's so wrong, and listen, they're looking for mismatches in the box. That's what they're trying to do, aren't they? So I agree with you. There is an element of sympathy where you go, well, they're looking to, who can I get on? Who I'm bigger than, basically, in a really sort of basic way. And so they're trying to make those happen. They're obviously working on, set pieces or breakdowns from set pieces in that goal, but he still just needs to deal with that better.
I agree, and again, it's not like it's Dan Burn. It's like Bruno, who's the same size as him. Like, he should not be beaten in that way, and it's forceful with it. But again, I don't even think it's the lack of physicality. It's just the way he just goes about it, which for me is a bigger worry. Because if it's just he's got beaten in a physical battle, it's like, oh well, don't do that again. It's like, okay, but in terms of his defending method, this is the method he chooses to try to attack that. And yes, you can say if he'd have had more time to think about it, he probably wouldn't have done it. But you're not always going to get more time to think about it. That's the point. Second balls. And with all due respect, conceding set-piece goals to Newcastle when our next game is against Arsenal is probably the worst way we could have conceded these goals. So, yes, I am concerned to a point. I do think these are things that they can and will be working on. Whether or not they will have enough time to work on them between now and the ultimate test of this on Sunday, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's a good point by Mo, isn't it, Ian? Because the ultimate set-piece team, the set-piece final boss, are coming to Anfield on Sunday, and you're almost like, well, hopefully the delivery's not great, you know what I mean? Because if it is, you know that they're going to cause us problems, and I back the manager and the coaching staff to sort it out eventually, because that's what they've done with every problem that they've had so far, but eventually it's not Sunday.
Oh, listen, they'll set piece the fucking heads off next week, Arsenal, we know that, because that's what they'll come and do, and they'll have seen that last night, and they'll know there's a weakness there. And I think in Kirkes, listen, most players he comes up against, they're going to be bigger than him. Yeah. That is the reality of it. He's only about 5'6", 5'7", something like that. Bruno's not massively much bigger than him, but he's probably got a couple of inches, but there's a lack of aggression for me, so he decides to almost just try and make it awkward for him by backing in. But just go and try and win your battle, just go in and try and win the ball. So I thought it was a little bit of an odd way to try and almost deal with that situation. What you would say is they've got to be better with the cross as well. There was no pressure on the ball for that cross to come in. It was too easy from a Newcastle perspective just to put that in towards the back post. So there's that. I think in terms of Liverpool's structure, I think it'll just help if they get McAllister in there as well. And McAllister and Gravenberch haven't played together for what seems like an age now. So I think having them two back in the midfield makes a ton of sense.
I think
it will be. And listen, don't get me wrong, I think sometimes on the counter, you've got to be mindful that McAllister's not the quickest, so once you're past him, you are past him. But in terms of game intelligence and just being a really smart footballer and doing the right things at the right times, he is that fella. So I think he's one of the first names on Liverpool's sheet. Just knits it all together, neat and tidy, can pick a pass, really clever. He'll take a yellow if he has to at certain moments as well. And I think, I said to you in the lead up to the game, John, I hope Liverpool are smart at the right moments and maybe just, you know, maybe doing some of the darker arts. I think Liverpool can get better at some of that. I think the managers even said it at times early on this season where, you know, if there's opportunities to go down, you go down. You know, they were doing loads of that. Newcastle, they were doing loads of it. You know, there was something in the first half which frustrated me, and I know Szoboszlai had a fantastic game, but he falls for one with Anthony Gordon right on the edge of our box where you knew exactly what was coming. You knew Gordon was going to try and manipulate the situation to just be able to go down, and Dom gives him that opportunity. So I do think there's still a little bit of Liverpool being cuter at times, being a bit smarter, being a bit cleverer with the ref as well. You know, Newcastle had a load of that. And the referee, by the way, you've mentioned it in the break, Stu, he was a disgrace, I thought, certainly for the first 35 minutes. It actually ends up working out for Liverpool in a really kind of weird way, because the first goal, Gravenberch's goal, there's probably a foul on Curtis Jones. He just ignores it.
He doesn't play advantage, by the way.
No, he does nothing, just lets it carry on. And obviously, by carrying on, Gravenberch gets the shot off, and it's 1-0 to the Reds. So it works for us in that instance, but there was so much of that first half an hour where it was like playing against 12. It felt like that. I think there was a stat after the game that Liverpool had given up more free kicks than they've ever done in the Premier League, which just, you know, that feels too much of a coincidence for me. So there's definitely some of that going on. But yeah, the structure aside, I think the manager will have an eye on that. He'll have to. And then, the set-piece stuff, they've got to be working on stuff like that. But as Mo said, some of that is coming down to individual players just not winning their battles. And that's something they're going to have to be really, really focused on ahead of Sunday.
Referee?
It's up to you, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, if you've used the word there, disgrace, I thought he was a disgrace. A complete disgrace. And we've got form with this referee. You know, when you go back to that Spurs game a couple of years ago.
You know what I thought, Stu? Sorry to interrupt. I thought the manager might just drop something in his press conference going, you know, a bit like the old Ferguson tactic. Nothing too, like, kind of on top where it would make the referee almost go the other way. But just a little kind of cautionary note to say, we just hope everyone's kind of onto everything that's going to be going on Monday night, because we knew they were going to play for stuff like yellows and fouls, and the referee just seemed totally like kind of, I don't know, like he wasn't expecting what was happening.
But I think that's him. I don't think this is a poor performance. I think this is a poor referee. I think he's a weak referee. I think he's got form for being a bit of a homer, because he's a bit of a crowd pleaser. And he doesn't seem to me to be a strong leader on the pitch. I don't think he's fit to referee a game of boggle, to be quite honest with you. When you look at the stat, so there was a stat that's come out post-game that the ball was in play for 40% of the game, which is the lowest since February 2010 in a game that involved Stoke. Okay, right. So I don't think we need to say too much there. Well, in Andrew Beasley for retweeting that, by the way. Now, you can blame Newcastle for that, because they wanted a stop-start game that was all focused on set pieces and breaking our rhythm. Liverpool couldn't get any rhythm. I was blaming the Reds, but actually with a bit of hindsight, you can also look at Newcastle's tactic to do that. But the referee was letting that go. He wasn't pulling them up on all those niggly fouls, all the breaks of play all the time. And there were some terrible challenges as well, which, by the way, the red card, how long did he have to look at that screen, by the way, to make his mind up? I mean, he didn't want to be put in that position. He did not want to send that lad off. I thought it was a disgraceful performance, and I think, yes, you can look at the ball in play stats and look at Newcastle's tactics, but you've also got to look at the referee in a situation like that and go, well, you've let that happen. If you're booking their players when they're doing this, when they're breaking the play all the time, then they're not going to do it, because they're going to run out of players. They're going to run out of options, and the game then becomes a football match. And our manager said after the game that he didn't see a football match, and I completely agree with him. That wasn't all down to Newcastle. It was also down to the referee.
You can say that he almost facilitates the Gordon challenge a little bit by not stamping down earlier on, because Gravenberch gets booked on the 8th minute. You knew that was coming. You knew it was coming. And listen, looking at it again, it probably is just about a yellow card. I've got no problem with that. But Newcastle had made 2 challenges right before then, which he just seemed absolutely happy to wave on, which were also yellow cards. Now, if he gets his grip of that game and stamps his authority from minute 1, there's a chance that the Anthony Gordon thing doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But the thing is, right, and I agree with nearly everything you say, Stu. In fact, no, I do agree with everything you say. The issue I would add to it is it's not just a Simon Hooper thing. It's that this is how referees all do it. Because we've seen other referees do the same thing. I mean, think about all of what you talked about in terms of the way that they're trying to break up the game, the way that Liverpool have got more of the possession but giving away more of the fouls. This is a Goodison playbook. It's exactly what happens every time Liverpool goes to Everton. And what happens is because the referees believe that the opponents, who are not as good footballing-wise, their advantage, their levelling out, is to win the physical battle. So they're going into it thinking, well, I don't want to go in there and give yellow cards and give cards straight away, because if I give a yellow card in the first 5 minutes, the chances of me having to give a red are higher. And refs don't want to give red cards. And people in football in general don't want to see someone get sent off in the first half. You hear about, oh, they spoiled the game.
In the game, yeah.
So referees they all want to let it flow. But you mentioned the problem with doing that is that you are allowing the players it ramps up further and further. It's not a case of a ref going, oh, well, you guys just get it out of your system and then we can go back to playing football. That's not how it works. It gets like, if every time someone gets away with something, the next one's worse, the next one's worse. I mean, if Joe Linton is booked for booting Cody Gakpo in the head, Kieran Trippier is not putting that one on Florian Wirtz, and then the next one is not as bad, the next one's not as bad. What made it worse is the fact that the very first Liverpool tackle, which, it was a yellow card. He went through the back of him. It's a yellow card. But then if that's where you give your first yellow card, then obviously it's going to continue the trend of the home side getting away with things and the away side not getting away with things. So I've seen lots of people talk about how Liverpool were bullied in that game. I feel like I have some sympathy with them because essentially you're playing with one hand behind your back. And
well, Virgil said it. You could hear him say, you could literally hear him say both sides.
Yeah.
Like, and they must get to the point where they feel like, well, how am I meant to win these physical battles? Because every time I lean on someone, they're giving me a foul. Yeah. And then every time he's all over me, the refs go, well, he's looking the other way.
Exactly. Yeah. And there is only so much that you can do to win that. If your opponents feel like they're able to take license and you're having to try and concern and worry about it. Particularly, as I said, like, once Grav's got his early yellow card, once Konate's got his early yellow card, they are both having to think about that when they go into every challenge. Whereas the Newcastle, Bruno Guimaraes, I think he gave away 5 fouls and he got booked for dissent. Yeah. like he was happy. Like the Hooper was happy.
It was like, I'll let you do what you want, but just don't talk back to me.
Exactly. So the Newcastle players never felt like they had to curb their behaviour because of discipline, whereas Liverpool absolutely did.
Yeah, I think it is a really fair point. Just to move on to a couple of other things that's going to lead us inevitably onto transfers, Ian. The bench doesn't look a little bit light. Yeah. Now, if Arne Slot was here, he'd say, well, I've put 2 lads on who've won the games. Yeah. So he puts Games on and makes it 3-2, he puts Ria on and makes it 3-2, and that's fair enough, but still you're looking at it and thinking, I thought it was notable we were bringing on lads who either you don't feel like the manager fancies or the kids, or they're just coming back from injury and they're not quite right. There was no sub who came on who you thought, they're going to help us get on top of this game or whatever. I thought Bradley really struggled. Listen, fair enough, he's probably sort of not quite fit, but the fact that your defensive sub is one who's not quite fit, sort of says something. And then there's others who, it seemed in the past that he's either not quite sure about for a variety of reasons. In many cases, I don't know, but Elliott's maybe on his way out. He's the attacking sub. Do you know what I mean? We are in a situation at the moment where the first 11 looks great, but after that, there's not many obvious either starters to come in if someone gets injured, or also just players who you feel like they're going to come on and give us a grown-up performance.
Yeah, I think it's staring us all in the face. I think we all know it. I think the manager knows it. I think he's alluded to it on several occasions, and you're right. Lads do come off the bench and they make a significant contribution, but you are talking about footballers in the case of Harvey Elliott and Chiesa, who we know he's probably not that fond of
Yeah.
He doesn't use them that often. I think Chiesa has talked about maybe just getting a little bit back to fitness, and his fitness now is far better than it was last season, so we'll have to see how that develops. But it still wouldn't totally kind of blow your socks off if someone came in with a beard that Liverpool would accept it. But I think it'll have to now be based on what comes through the door, because they can't leave themselves any lighter in attacking options. So I think that's perfectly fine. But I think the big thing is Liverpool have taken Hugo Ekitike off the pitch 3 times now. On every single occasion, they've looked weaker for it. They've looked weaker for it. Yeah. And that's a big tick in his box, that he's doing something really, really right in terms of being a physical presence, but in terms of being someone who can hold the ball up. I take the lad's points earlier on, there are things he can still improve on, we know that, but he's a young footballer. But Liverpool do look a poorer team when he comes off the pitch, and the manager, and he can't play every minute. And the manager's even said he's working his way towards something. He's come from a different league, his fitness levels aren't quite there yet. It's going to take him a little bit of time, and that's perfectly understandable and fine. So Liverpool will have to make some moves, and there's a bit of chat around, well, they'll hold what they have if they can't get the big fella over the line. I just find that hard to believe. I think that might well happen. Anyway, I think you hopefully do start to see some more kind of movement this week, and that will be a hell of an addition, by the way. But Liverpool can't hold what they have. They simply don't look equipped enough to go another 4 months before there's an opportunity to buy someone else. As you said, first 11 looks in good nick. There's things to be worked on, but it looks in good nick in terms of the quality of footballer we're talking about. But absolutely, they need some reinforcements, John. You can't get away from it.
Did you just say that you can't see it happening?
I did, and then I went, well, actually, it's a bit FSG.
Bad news, Gibbons.
No, I can't see them not getting a forward in, is what I sort of meant, but then you're like, well, Elizabeth. So it's funny because when Liverpool was spending the big money, I sort of made the argument, well, people saying this isn't very FSG, but it is quite FSG. They've done it in the past to go high on what they've done. But what is also a bit, and by I mean FSG, I more mean Liverpool in the FSG era here. So Liverpool in the FSG era will spend big on the right player. So Wirtz, although it came in a little bit out of nowhere, like maybe shouldn't have for us. But what they've all done also has been a bit FSG era as well. If they can't get the one they want, they go, all right, well, we'll leave it. And that's the negative. Yes. So the positive is they'll go big on the right players, and they've proven they do that, and the players who make an impact. And there's a phenomenal strike rate on those, by the way. In terms of, obviously, it's a bit early to say on these guys who sort of come in, but before that, so they've got this phenomenal strike rate, they've got this ability to go big, but they've also got this other part of the coin, which is if they can't get the one they want, they go, oh, wait, well, hang on. I'm not sure we can hang on until January with just this.
I think it's going to happen.
Oh.
I do. I genuinely. I've been back and forth.
What do you mean? The Isak thing will happen, or do you think?
I do. I think Isak will happen.
Okay.
I've been back and forth, and I think yesterday the fact that it was announced that the fella flew over and he's had the talks with Isak, and it was like the last throw of the dice type of thing, and he's like
Add him to the helmet list, by the way, throwing that tweet out and then deleting it. Again, just stoking the flames. You see, like the co-owner put that tweet out, didn't he, before the game? Just get into them, and he deleted it then.
Yeah, worked well, didn't it? So I think that conversation, I mean, if that co-owner's face at the ground yesterday was anything to go by, I don't think that conversation's gone well. I don't think at this point that Isak is backing down. I don't think there's any way that he's gone into a meeting yesterday and gone, oh, go on then, I'll have the new contract. I'll wait till January. You come this far. I just don't think there's any way. So I think the very fact that he's come in to have that conversation means they realise it has to go one way or the other. It has to, because there's no point in them keeping him if he's just going to be a dead duck for them. And there's all this talk about, it'll all be shake hands in September. If he's still there, he'll play until January. Yeah, but what's he going to be like around the ground? I just don't think that that's going to fly, and I think bridges have been burned too much with the fans. I just don't think that's going to work as well as what it's being suggested. So I think now there's going to be a thing where they invite Liverpool back to the table. I think it might take a couple of days. I definitely don't think anything will happen today in the aftermath of yesterday. I think it'll take a couple of days, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of give us 135, and Liverpool go, no, we'll give you 120, and then there's, can we make it look like 135 on the diddle, on the add-ons, and Liverpool's go, well, yeah, the add-ons, as long as it's first man to Mars, that's fine. And so they get to announce the 135, and we get to really get him for 120. I think that's where it'll land. I'll be amazed now if that doesn't happen.
This idea, before Mo comes in, that Liverpool are the bad guy, and I talked about this at the very start of the show, that we seemingly are the only club that aren't allowed to negotiate anymore. Like, you've got to go in.
The first club we've ever tried to buy a player.
I know, it's unbelievable. I mean, you know, let's have it right. And again, Newcastle have tried to spin this, and the local journalists have tried to spin it, that they haven't been lowballing Brentford all summer when they have. Oh, because Brentford keep changing the price. Well, Brentford have come out through reporters like Keith Downey said, hang on, no, we haven't changed anything. But Newcastle have gone in time and time again on at least 2 or 3 occasions now, going in at 25, 35 million for Wissa, knowing full well that was never going to get it done. But seemingly Liverpool are insulting people when they're going in at over £110 million, because I think there was add-ons to be kind of included in that, and apparently all of a sudden that's a massive insult.
That 110 apparently was a straight 110, and that's why Liverpool are going, no, we're not lowballing. And let's be clear, it is the British record between 2 British clubs. That money has never been handed over before.
But you've got people like, as I said before, Henry Winter talking about it being like an absolute shameful bid. I mean, this is what I'm really struggling with, and as I say, they can spin out however they want. Liverpool have done nothing wrong. The player was already unsettled, doesn't want to play for the club anymore, wants to seek a new challenge. That happens all the time. Yeah. Go as far back as when, you know, Alan Shearer wanted to leave Blackburn, wanted to seek a new challenge. Newcastle came in, didn't bid the 15 million, by the way, which is the world record at the time, that eventually gets it done. The first bid gets turned down, but he had 2 years left on his deal. But you know, this is what football's been like forever and a day. Yeah. Nothing's changed here. Liverpool are just doing what all clubs do, but all of a sudden, it's been portrayed as Liverpool as some kind of bad guy in this whole kind of charade. It's a nonsense. And listen, I think it might get done. The only worry would be now is that they've suffered a few more injuries, and not necessarily top end of the pitch, but obviously there's a numbers thing here. But I still think, as Stu mentioned, maybe it's just gone a little bit too far now. And if anything, I think Eddie Howe was knowing from probably a number of weeks ago that this wasn't going to work. All of his kind of comments have basically been coming at it from, he knows the players wanted to go, and I think he's got to manage that ship, and he knows having a guy who doesn't want to be there is not going to help him achieve his goals, having a lad kicking about who just doesn't want to play for the club. So hopefully we see a bit of momentum in the next few days. Sorry, Mo, I know you're going to come in.
Yeah, so the whole Liverpool bad thing and all of the spin and all that kind of stuff, right, it's really, really important to remember none of that matters at all. It might sound bad to us. We might get upset about it as Liverpool fans. It doesn't matter. It changes literally fuck all. Yeah. There's no one has ever not signed someone because of everyone thought, oh no, the PR bad as battle. Even the Van Dijk thing, it wasn't that. It was a legal challenge that Southampton were going to put in. That's the only thing that changed it. Like, Newcastle still need a striker. And the meeting is going on as we record this right now, if that meeting still comes out of it and Isak's saying, I'm still not playing for you, then they're going to have to change it. And the people saying that, oh, now Anthony Gordon's injured, that now means that, suspended, sorry, that now means that they're going to have to dig their heels in. No, that means that they're going to have to buy somebody. That means that they're actually going to have to put up the money that's required to buy somebody. So if they still think that Jurgen Strand-Larsen's the guy, they're going to have to put up enough money for Wolves to not say no. Or if they think this is the guy, they're going to have to put enough money for them to not say no. If they think Nicholas Jackson's the guy, they're going to have to put enough money so that they can beat out everyone else. They're going to have to do the thing that they don't want to do. And that's not necessarily sell Isak, because I can probably tell you that there's many people inside Newcastle, boardroom and team, who would be happier if he was gone than if he's still there on September 2nd. What they don't want to do is seemingly overpay for the replacement. Well, guys, tough shit. Like, you're now going to have to do that because you need a replacement more than you need to not overpay. So the desperation stakes are still with Newcastle here. I think that from Liverpool's perspective, if Newcastle do decide to do the thing that hurts them most and dig in, then I would be disappointed, because I do agree, I don't think that Liverpool are going to move on to any other targets in the last 5 or 6 days. So, and I think that if Liverpool were only going with the amount of attackers they've got now, that's not enough. And that's even before you talk about AFCON. It's just not enough. I think, going back to your original point about the bench, I think what we saw last season was that we saw every game, there was at least one person on the bench where you're like, yeah, he's unlucky not to be starting. I didn't see anyone like that on the bench
No.
last night. That's the difference. And yes, there are still, once Bradley's back fit, once McAllister's back in, maybe that changes a little bit. But in the attacking areas, no. So Liverpool are going to still put a bid in. That's the other thing. Like, Liverpool are still going to put a bid in, regardless of whether Newcastle buy a player or not. That's going to be the real deciding factor, because if Newcastle hear from Isak and he says, I'm not playing for you. And another thing I have to throw in here, the whole World Cup year thing. He's playing for Sweden. Like, even if he's on a Spanish golf course for 3 months, he's playing for Sweden.
Well, the funny thing with all these international breaks is it actually helps him a little bit. So even people say, oh, let him Ross in the reserve. So he's playing twice for Sweden in September, twice in October, and twice in November.
It'll be sound.
We'll sign him in January. He'd be fucking great, Nick. He was like, yeah, I just kept ticking over. I've got 4 and 6 for Sweden. I'm laughing, and I've been sat off. Yeah,
Exactly. So that's not really a live threat. I would if he ends up going back into the group and it's difficult and there's terrible Tuesdays, I wouldn't be surprised, because nothing surprises me in football. But I still think that's the least likely option as we sit here.
The thing they've done, Newcastle, and listen, no one wants to lose the best player, but they had decisions to make May time when Isak was communicating to him to say, listen, you know, I've done my time here, I'd like to go and seek a new challenge. And instead of doing something about it, and maybe it's because of the structure of the club at the minute, and they haven't got the kind of correct people in the right positions, but they could have come out and just been really, really aggressive in the market at the earliest opportunity and got deals over the line. And it was never going to be fully on their terms, but you can kind of tip the balance a little bit in your favour if you're smart and cute enough in the market. Now it's not on their terms at all, because now they are looking like they're going to have to overpay. My concern has always been the egos in this, and whether that just gets the better of people making smart decisions because the egos are kind of ruling the head a little bit. You hope that's not the case, but these meetings that are apparently going on, you hope that maybe brings it to some conclusion, and you know, people start to think a little bit more strategically, because if Newcastle do this bid or do this kind of deal, all of a sudden they can then go and spend maybe 3 or 4 times the amount they bring in for Isak on other areas, on other transfers, because that's, you know, they're moaning a lot about PSR, but you've got to try and work the system to your favour. By doing this deal, they would probably, if it is 135, they're probably then booking about £93 million worth of profit. They can then go and do deals for about 350, 400 million in terms of, you know, the difference between how it's accounted for when you bring a transfer in to how it's accounted for when you're kind of paying money for the transfer. So there's things they can do here. They're really smart. They can kind of manage this situation and come out the better for it. But if they're going to dig the heels in, you can only see it hurting them in the short, medium, and potentially long term as well.
Listen, absolutely loads more of this across the week, of course, on our subscription shows. So Gutman, when he gets back from Newcastle, which is probably now, he gets up early, he'll be deep down in the gutter doing loads more of Isaac stuff, or is there any other names being thrown in? What's going on with the centre-half? I gather as we've been recording, there's been a bit of gay stuff online as well, so that'll be all happening throughout the week and right up to the end of the transfer window closing, which is on Monday. Obviously, there's a pretty big game between now and then as well, a massive game against Arsenal, top of the table, clash already. Can't wait for that on Sunday, and as ever, Ian Ryan's pre-match warm-up is the best warm-up of any, about best warm-up of any sport, anything you can do. Put it on before you go to the gym, you'll absolutely smash it. Ian Ryan doing that. So, yeah, loads of reasons to subscribe is what I'm getting at. We'd love to have you on board. Download the app, get stuck in. Audio and video, loads of subscription stuff on transfers, looking ahead to the games, reacting. Thought the post-match stuff was great last night. We did post-match pints here from the pub in Liverpool, and the audio they did up from Newcastle, and both shows really strong. So you can tuck in to those if you download the app today. So we'd love to have you on board. Do come on. But in the meantime, huge thanks to Ian, to Stu, and to Mo for the huge production team now we have making these things happen, and of course to Peloton for partnering us again for this show for another year. Hope you've enjoyed that. Up the Reds. Hope everyone has a good day apart from Sam and Uber.